Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of High Strangeness. I'm your host, as always, Paul Aguilar. Appreciate you guys stopping in for another episode. If you guys aren't already a subscriber and you enjoy the show, please consider hitting that subscribe button for us. If you want to go ahead and share the show with a friend, colleague, wife, whatever, girlfriend, boyfriend, please pass the link along. That'll really help us out. Also, consider hitting thumbs up button as well as turning on that bell icon so you guys don't miss an episode in the future. So we're gonna jump in here with another crazy kind of story. If anybody knows anything about Hitler and his kind of rise to power, you knew that he was a pretty crazy guy, psychotic, obviously. Um, Now, one of like the lesser known things, I guess, maybe not so much. So I'm pretty sure there's like a common knowledge about it, but he was always really big on the occult. Really big on the occult. So like looking for the spirit of Longinus or the spirit of destiny, like Ark of the Covenant and stuff like that. Was real heavy into the occult, aliens, and all kinds of crazy stuff, which would explain a lot of the technological advances that they had over pretty much the rest of the world. If you kind of sit back and look at what they had in their arsenal, it's kind of a wonder as to how we ended up. Well, actually, the U.S. didn't really win the war. That was more like the Russian side and stuff. But it's just kind of amazing that we were able to stop them. Um, just considering all of the technology that they had, once World War II was over, Operation Paperclip, where we took half of the scientists and Russia got the other half. NASA was created by Werner von Braun, who was one of the top Nazi scientists in World War II. And he just came over here to the States and created NASA, and nobody really seems to care that these guys were all Nazis. So it's kind of a weird, I guess it's just kind of weird that in the pursuit of being, number one, first to the moon and trying to be great and all that stuff, that we just kind of gloss over these details, where there was actual Nazis that kind of founded, some of the major institutions. But nobody knows about that. Nobody, and those that do care enough, but not enough to make a difference, I guess. But yeah, so one of the ones that I didn't really know about was the fact that Hitler made his way over to India. Now I know Nazis had Indian forces, that was actually fighting in the war with them, like helping them out and stuff. But I didn't know that, Hitler was recruiting people from India, trying to, decode ancient like documents and stuff like that, and having them create rockets for them and all kinds of stuff. So I went ahead and checked out a little bit of this video prior. I usually check out the videos just to see what the quality is on them. This has some really great visuals, but the audio is not so great. But the good thing is that they actually have the spelling out on the screen, so you can follow along with what you don't really understand that they're speaking, because they are kind of a little bit of that Indian accent. But that's not why it sucks. It's just like the quality is really bad. You can't really hear, what she's saying. You can follow along on the screen if you feel like reading. If not, I understand. But yeah, let's get into this video and just kind of see a little glimpse into what was going on in the Third Reich with Hitler, and another aspect to the occult that he was looking into, trying to, get the advantage. So yeah, let's take a look.
Vyakarana Shastra and Veda Pandit of Andhra Pradesh, India, was Brahmasri Dandibhatla Vishwanatha Sastry from Rajamundry. He was invited by few German scientists who worked for Hitler to decode Sanskrit hymns in Yajurveda and Atharva Veda during 1938. This was done to design war missiles before Second World War. He was a child prodigy who studied Tarka, logic, Vyakarana, grammar, Mimamsa, dilemma, and mastered the entire Yajurveda Karma Kanda Bhaga and Atharva Veda Mantra Prayoga Bhaga. Application Part. Ancient sciences cannot be interpreted as modern sciences. Yajurveda alone is perceived as four phases in four forms. They are to be understood in so many ways, and a person has to have a passion for these four sciences. His disciples, like Venkateswara Shastri and Sita Ramanjaneyulu, tell stories about Dandibhatla Vishwanatha Sastry, who is known as a scholar of grammar in Rajamundry. When Indira Gandhi was Prime Minister, Ambassador to West Germany was shown a photo of an Indian in his office and asked to identify him. When he failed, German authorities called Dandibhatla a cosmologist and told him the reason for his great reputation in Germany. When First World War temporarily subsided, Kaiser government collapsed in Germany. Hitler was one of the thousands of German soldiers captured in that war. Could not bear that insult. He believed that Germans are the greatest of all races in the world. He founded the Nazi Party to prove their superiority anyway. The Germans were excited with patriotism. Many reforms were initiated to make Germany scientifically and industrially superior. Also began the search for new lethal weapons.
That was the worst room clearing I've ever seen, or entrance I've ever seen.
Germans were already interested in the study of Sanskrit language. He realized that there were mysteries of lethal weapons in Indian Vedic literature. Hitler took stern measures to secure the Germans from that oratory, which was first seen in print. He continued to search for those who would unravel the mysteries of the making of weapons. At the same time, Hitler's representatives learned of Dandibhatla's cosmology and began a search for him. Viswanatha Sastry was always thinking of scientific matters and not caring about worldly matters. He used to discuss them with those who came to his house. One day, he had to go to a village near Kottavalasa, near Visakhapatnam. Hitler's representatives met him on the way and first took him to Visakhapatnam and then to Calcutta. Hitler's representatives in Calcutta tried their best to persuade him. He was eventually taken to Germany. The time when Dandibhatla reached Germany was the moment when the field was being prepared for the Second World War. In 1938, he was summoned to Germany to help in decoding the Rahasya mantras, which were used for missile technology in World War by Germans.
Okay, so I don't know what the mantras are. I've never seen any of those writings. I should have probably looked into them a little bit prior, but I didn't know exactly what what that was or what that is. Obviously, they're ancient writings. They somehow found interest in them because of information that was in there that could lead to weapons and stuff like that, which in and of itself is quite extraordinary. Just looking at the mantras themselves, that ancient Indians, way back when, actually had that kind of technology, which leads off into a whole another discussion about how advanced ancient civilizations were, and they weren't just a bunch of people out in the sticks and just living in little huts or caves and stuff like that, but they were actually far more advanced than we are now, if not at the same level. I know it's hard for people to believe that ancient civilizations could be as advanced, if not more, than we were, because then you get the questions like, well, where did they go and what happened to them? How come we don't see remnants of like giant cities and stuff like that? It's a good question, and I understand, but just because you can't prove it doesn't mean that it's not true. And the same thing goes the other way, because you can't. A lot of people are going to say, well, where's the proof? So like I get both sides, but it's just crazy that they would think that the Germans would be catapulted so far into the future by looking at ancient manuscripts from way back when, creating like these crazy weapons and stuff, and freaking V2 rockets and missile systems and giant cannons and freaking Deglaka and all these kind of crazy experiments that they were doing. So it's interesting.
Germans had no way of storing bombs without exploding. Dandibhatla suggested a solution to that problem from the Yajurveda. He has been revered ever since. He shared his scientific erudition with the Germans. He helped Germans to become one of the most developed countries in the world. Dandibhatla Vishwanatha Sastri's lone written work left was Bhuttoji Dikshit's grammar work, Siddhanta Kaumudi. Nagesha Bhattu's short commentary on this is available at the Oriental Library, Hyderabad. He could not return to India after Second World War. For many years, Viswanatha Sastri's wife received rupees 300 salary from German government. After some time, she received rupees 90 until she was alive. It was assumed that Shastriji passed away at that time in Germany and his pension was sent to his wife in India. After Dandibhatla's departure from the country, India and his state, Andhra, forgot him. However, the Germans still retain him as their own, as a nobleman. It is interesting to note that the Nazis developed the first practical pulse jet engines for their V-8 rocket buzz-bombs. Hitler and his Nazi staff were exceptionally interested in ancient India and Tibet. They sent expeditions to both these places yearly, starting in the 1930s. In order to gather esoteric evidence that they did so, and perhaps it was from these people that the Nazis gained some of their scientific information. Only a few years ago, the Chinese discovered some Sanskrit documents in Lhasa, Tibet, and sent them to the University of Chandigarh to be translated. These documents contain directions for building interstellar spaceships. Their method of propulsion was anti-gravitational and was based upon a system analogous to that of Laghima, the unknown power of the ego existing in our physiological makeup, a centrifugal force strong enough to counteract all gravitational pull. According to Ashtasiddhis, it is this Laghima which enables a person to levitate. One such siddhi or power called anima, which was to make a living being shorter, was shown in Hollywood movie Ant-Man. These machines, which were called astras, were used by ancient Indians to send a detachment of men onto any planet thousands of years ago. The manuscripts were also said to reveal the secret of anima, which is the cap of invisibility, and garima, which means how to become as heavy as a mountain of lead. This method was used by Hanuman in Ramayana to cross ocean and reach Lanka. Naturally, Indian scientists did not take the texts very seriously, but then became more positive about the value of them when the Chinese announced that they were including certain parts of the data for study in their space program. This was one of the first instances of a government admitting to be researching anti-gravity.
Yeah, let's go back to that.
The passion for these.
I want to look at that last part. The Chinese announced that they were including certain parts of data for study in their what was it? Oh, this is one of the first instances of a government admitting to be researching anti-gravity. Well, it was important enough work that the Chinese wanted to study it. Obviously, the Chinese steal anybody's and all intellectual property. It doesn't matter who it's from. It's well known that the Chinese get rich off of other people's ideas and creations and stuff. So whenever you're out there accepting those terms of service on your phone, whenever you download that new game or whatever you got on your phone, TikTok, especially as you've seen lately in the news, you're agreeing to them taking all your information and selling it, using it. So good on them for doing that kind of stuff, but they're taking other people's intellectual property and profiting off of it. So shitheads. Anyways, now I mean, it's like I said, it's definitely interesting. I had never heard of Hitler using mantras and ancient writings from India to do anything. So when I heard about this, it was crazy to me. So decided to jump in and make a video about it. It's crazy, but I'm gonna link the story as well down below in the show notes, because it has another little article attached that I found that will be good for everybody to take a look at. Not just this video, but there's a whole lot of other stuff that you guys can read. I'll just take a little piece out of it as well. It's a real short article. I'll just link it so you can have it. But this was written back in, let's see when the story was written. Doesn't say. Yeah, I don't know. I think it was sometime this year. I hope it's an up-to-date story, but it says Hitler and his Nazi staff were exceptionally interested in ancient India and Tibet, and sent expeditions to both these places yearly. We heard that. Said only a few years ago, the Chinese discovered some Sanskrit documents in Lhasa, Tibet, and sent them to the University of Chandigarh to be translated. These documents contain directions for building interstellar spaceships. What the heck? Their method of propulsion, she said, was anti-gravitational. That's what they're getting to here and at the end of this video. But the last thing we need is for the Chinese to have interstellar spaceships and anti-gravitational anything, technology and other stuff. But it says their methods of propulsion, she said, was anti-gravitational and was based upon a system analogous to that of Lakshma. The unknown power of the ego existing in man's psychological makeup and centrifugal force strong enough to counteract all gravitational pull. These machines, which were called astras by the text, the ancient Indians could have sent a detachment of men on 75. I actually just read that. According to the document, which is that to be thousands of years old. Isn't that like that movie? I don't know. What is the name of that movie? It's like Project 9 or something like that. I don't remember, where they have those like giant ships kind of floating in the air. Let's see. And then it says, blah, 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 document, which is thousands. According to the document, which is thought to be thousands of years old, the manuscripts were also said to reveal the secret of Antima, the cap of invincibility, and Garima, she said, how to become as heavy as a mountain of lead. Naturally, Indian scientists did not take the text very serious, which is odd. It's always that way. I don't understand where the divide is, where people think that just because you're a scientist that you can't believe. And it's just like I said, just because you can't explain it or show proof that it's real does not mean that it doesn't exist. Don't understand. I get it. When you're a scientist and you've been working your entire life and you're set in your ways and you're just, documents and proof. I need the proof, and give me the proof, and I can prove it this way and I can prove it that way. They're not going to like things that they can't prove, on their own. There's no faith, which is why you never find a religious scientist really. They don't believe in that kind of stuff. They don't believe in the faith aspect of things. They just need the proof, which I get it, whatever. But at some point, you just got to take the leap. That's why it's called faith. You just got to believe without the proof. And I get these scientists look at these things and they're like, well, I can't recreate this, and there's no proof that they existed, so why should we believe it? But naturally, it said, the Indian scientists did not take the text very seriously, but then became more positive about the value of them when the Chinese announced that they were including certain parts of the data for study in their space program. So, yeah, it wasn't until the Chinese took that leap that they started looking at it a little deeper. But like I said, the last thing we need is for the Chinese to have anything that's so advanced. But they get their grubby little hands on everything, so there you go. Yeah, but it's definitely interesting, guys. You guys let me know what you guys think in the comments, or shoot me an email, as you guys know. But if you aren't already a subscriber, like I mentioned, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up. Share it with your friends. Share the link. Share it with anybody you know. That'll really help us out a lot. Yeah, I guess let me know what you guys think. It's pretty crazy. I'm going to be looking through and seeing if I can find what other kind of occult stuff that Hitler was going through, not just in India and not just, the Spirit of Longinus and Ark of the Covenant and stuff like that, but there's some other stuff I'm sure out there. So we'll take a look at some of the stuff like that and I'll see what I can find. But yeah, appreciate you guys stopping by, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good weekend.